Hello everyone, just Goran here and welcome back to a real life Planet Zoo inspiration video. And today we are looking at a bunch of different bonobo habitats. And the first habitat we are looking at is that of Apenheul. And Apenheul, if you don't know, is a monkey zoo. It's pretty much, except for a few exceptions, exclusively monkeys, and we are in the walk-through lemur area, and in the walk-through lemur area is a bonobo habitat. I don't really know how to explain it. I also don't know how the lemurs don't get everywhere, because they can do stuff like that, but yeah, let's have a look at the bonobo habitat and leave the lemurs for another day. So we're right now going up onto the roof of the indoor area, and you can see Apenheul has all of these green roofs all over the place. I absolutely love the architecture of this zoo. But over here we have the bonobo habitat, and it is absolutely huge. This habitat is about 3,000 square meters, and yeah, it just has tons of space for the bonobo. You can view all of it from up here, which is just a really nice vantage point. You can see they have a beautiful climbing frame, tons of natural trees. It's just absolutely fantastic, and we can see the bonobo right down there. They're just playing around, doing all sorts of stuff. Like with any primate, bonobos are just so fun to watch when they're out and about doing stuff. Just really great. Now over here we can see some of the containment. We've got a very nice big moat, but what's actually interesting here is there's a dam in the moat, because there's two moats at different levels, and the dam itself is covered in a bunch of electrical wires to of course make sure that the bonobo don't cross the dam. But yeah, that's really interesting. That's something that you can do if you also are struggling with terrain changes and different water levels. Over here we can see what the habitat looks like in the summer. A lot more lush. The previous footage was actually from not so long ago, in the spring. Yeah, you can see the green hasn't completely settled in yet. It's already lush, but not quite that lush. This, by the way, is a view from the walking bridge, so we could see the building we were standing on earlier. And now we're going to go down into the indoor area, and you can just see all of this wood stuff. Like that, this is very unique to Apenheul. This stuff is all over the place there. It looks so freaking cool. So here we have a bunch of educational stuff. Over here we can see the backstage access. There's like a keeper path going under where we are now. And you can see that backstage building. It looks so interesting. Like Apenheul has such modern and like interesting architecture. It's super cool. But yeah, into the indoor area we go. And over here we can see a little area for the keepers behind a door. And yeah, we can see a small separation room. So the husbandry manual for bonobo sets is very important to be able to, you know, close off certain bonobos from one another, and depending on how the social interactions are going. So over here they have all the space they need to be able to do that. It looks like down on the right is another of those indoor areas actually. So yeah, you've got this big room over here, and then several of these other smaller rooms. Another one over here. Where they can separate bonobos if there's some issues in the social structure. So that's really cool. And then over here is a really awesome educational room about evolution. So if you don't know, bonobo is actually the primate that is the closest related to humans. Our DNA matches for, I think it's like 99.7% or something like that. So this is of course a really nice place to talk about evolution and to talk about how it's possible that we're so closely related to them. So yeah, super awesome to have that in there. And let's head back outside. We're gonna have one more viewing point over here. You can also see the fire escape plan. I always like to film these so that you can kind of get an idea of the layout of the building that way. And yeah, once again over here we can see what it looks like in summer. So we got a bonobo sitting right over there, and as we zoom out you get to see just how freaking lush this place is. This is all of Apenheul. Like the entirety of Apenheul is just like it's built inside of a forest or something, and it just looks phenomenal. It's so freaking beautiful. But yeah, back to spring footage, and we can see what it looks like then. You can see more of that structure of the indoor area, and then there's one more viewing outpost over here with some more educational things about social structures of the bonobo, and yeah, one more view into that wonderful enclosure. freaking awesome. So over here is also a sign about the history of the bonobos at this zoo, and what year they arrived and stuff like that. So it's really cool to include there. So next up we have the Zoo of Cologne, and this I really want to see what this looks like in the summer, because right now it looks a little bit not too great. I wasn't very impressed with this enclosure, but I will say I think looking at like all the tangled plants and stuff around the enclosure, I feel like when this is in bloom and when it's all greened up, it would actually look really quite nice. But a big difference that we can see between the previous enclosure and this one is that this enclosure is completely netted over, which already makes it feel a lot more enclosed. It is also quite a bit smaller. The Zoo of Cologne has somewhere around 700 square meters, so that's a fair bit less than what we just had. Over here, something really cool though, there's this passage from the backstage into the enclosure, and Bonobo would actually cross above you. You would probably never see them do it, but it's cool to think about the fact that they could. And what we saw there was a little emergency exit of the indoor area, which we'll have a look at later. But yeah, here you can see there is plenty of climbing opportunities for the Bonobo. There's a lot of stuff for them to do. I don't think this is a horrible exhibit, but I will say overall in Germany my experience with primate houses wasn't the best. Like, especially if we go like to the orangutans over here. We're not going to do that in this video, of course, but they really don't have a lot of space, and I really wish that zoos like this would get rid of either the bonobo or the orangutan and give that space to the other species. But yeah, that was the indoor area for the orangutan. Let's quickly move over to over here where we have the bonobo. So we could see that emergency exit right over there, and across from it is the bonobo indoor area. So I do quite like this. They have a lot of space over here, they have a lot of climbing, and I really just like the way that this is designed with all the foliage in front, making it really look like a jungle. The enclosure itself less so, but of course the bonobos would absolutely rip that stuff to shreds. It looks like they've got some balls here for enrichment, which this bonobo is absolutely a fan of, and he's hoarding them all. Yeah, I want to say rock work, but I don't even think it passes as that. The flooring over here, it has an interesting shape, but yeah, it does look very, very faux. It would be easy to clean, that's probably why it is that way. But yeah, doesn't look too impressive. But overall, I really do quite like this this indoor area. I think it's quite nice. There is some more space in the back of it, of course, where they do have the ability to separate them. And here, once again, we have that passage going over the visitors, and it looks so freaking cool. I really wonder if like how often you would see a bonobo passing over your head there. We can still see the ball guy playing in the back. But yeah, that is pretty much it. This leads to the indoor area of the gorillas. So that would be it for Cologne. So let's move on to the next zoo. And the next zoo is Ouwehands. And Ouwehands, I will spoil it. This is definitely my favorite of the bonobo habitats in this video. Like, I just think it's so freaking beautiful. So there's one path going along this side over here where you already have a peek into the enclosure. You can see that from like that left window. That's what we were just looking through. There's also the backstage access. But yeah, let's get back to the main path we just were. So I love these like beautiful, colorful planks over here decorating this indoor area. And yeah, just like in Apenheul, there's this kind of pit that you're looking down into in the indoor area, and that just gives the bonobo so much more vertical space to climb around in, which I think is really, really cool. This, by the way, is across from the elephant exhibit that we saw in another real-life inspiration video. But yeah, the bonobo are usually not hanging out in the pit. They're usually on your eye level, so it really doesn't matter from a like viewing point of view. Also, haha, sex. If you don't know, bonobo are known for their sexual behaviors, basically as a gesture of friendliness. When two groups of bonobo meet each other, they will start having sex with each other, and they are very polyamorous, very also like bisexual. Like males will have sex with each other and females will have sex with each other. They don't care. They're all just going ham. Also really cool, you can bring your dog to Ouwehands, so you're gonna have these really cool interactions like that. Man, the footage is going way too fast for me to keep up. But yeah, let's just keep going. There's a huge viewing area over here where you get really up close to them. I really love the amount of different viewing points that this zoo has, from like windows to of course the indoor viewing, but we'll also see a mode later on. But also, look at how much education there is. This is a really cool like true or false quiz that you can keep going, like true or false, and then switching between answers. And then at the end you'll reach a QR code and you can scan that and it will tell you whether or not you've had like enough correct answers. It will reward you. Well, it will reward you by saying well done. But you can also go ahead and on that website check back what all the correct answers were. So I think that's a really cool way to use QR codes in your education actually. Yeah, and we're looking through that glass viewing point, and you can see just all the climbing structures. They are looking really, really cool over here. There's so many unique shapes to them, and you've got your ropes, you've got your rope bridges, you've got regular beams and poles. Like, this is just so varied and interesting looking. More education. There's a board game over here that you can play. It's like, I don't know what the English word of it is, ganzenbord. This is Bonobo board. And you even have a dice over here that you can spin to like get a number, and you can play the game together, which is really cool. Then yeah, there's just a wall over here. Behind that is the backstage, but there's some more education signs on there, and then here you have the beautiful rock work. The only thing I don't like about this area is the music that is playing in the background. I don't know what this is. I don't know why it's here. I'm pretty sure it was playing here both times I went. And it's horrible. I hate it so much. But yeah, here's a little cave with even more education about you have to like guess which hands which primates these hands belong to. There's a little family tree talking about all the different primates. Super much education. I don't know what the point is of this thing being able to scroll it. Of course it tells you more about yeah, the threats that bonobos face and the solutions that are being worked on tackling those threats. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of these interactive exhibits where it's just interactive for the sake of being interactive, where it doesn't really add much. I think spinning this thing doesn't really add much to what you're reading, but yeah, it's still cool. There was also a little quiz on the TV screen. There's a memory game over there. Just tons of different educational exhibits over here, which is super cool. And then here we have the best view. Like, just look at this. It looks so freaking cool. And as I mentioned, like, so many varied kinds of views. So over here we have a mode view, and you really get to take in just how big this enclosure is. And pretty much, well, this enclosure, I should say enclosures, because there's actually two different habitats over here. And the first one we can see on the left is about 1,300 square meters, and this one that we're looking at right now is about 1,400 square meters. So yeah, super awesome. I love the rockwork, absolutely beautiful. Next up we have the Zoo of Wuppertal, and this is by far my least favorite of the habitats. Again, we have a netted over enclosure, and this one is just tiny. Like, I love this viewing area. It's actually a really nice viewing area. It's pretty cool. I love the lushness of the exhibit. It's pretty quite nice, but man, it is only 300 square meters. That is 10 times as small as the one in Apenheul, and that's the one that we're about to see. And they probably have less bonobos, but that's also an issue because this is a very social creature. You want to have a large family group. Yeah, this really just really highlights that thing that I said that I didn't like about primate houses in Germany, where the orangutans over here also don't have that much space. The gorillas also don't have that much space. I really wish they would just give this space to the orangutans or something. Like, yeah, it's just not, I'm not a fan. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. But the indoor area, again, is actually quite nice. I really like this primate house. It's really interesting. I've mentioned before, Wuppertal is on a hill, and I really like the way that this building deals with that. It actually has like different compartments that each are a little bit lower than the other, so you're kind of going downhill as you're going through this building, which is really quite cool. And then these indoor enclosures are quite nice. Of course, they're very utilitarian, but yeah, they've got quite a lot of verticality to them, and there's a lot of opportunities for them to separate the different animals and things like that. So that's all actually quite cool. And what's also really cool about this is that there's probably some kind of installation being put here eventually, or yeah, it used to be. No, but what's really cool about this is that there's actually a look-in kitchen as well, so you can have a look into the area where they're preparing the food and things for the gorillas, the orangutans, and the bonobo. Maybe even some of the other animals as well, because there's another monkey house right next to this one, which we'll probably see in a future episode as well, if not the zoo tour of Wuppertal whenever we get to that. We can also see a little donation thing, but why would you donate through that thing when there's a much cooler donation device right over here after we go past all of this cool art? So over here we have this little enrichment thing, which is normally in the enclosure of a lot of primates. Actually, we'll see one later as well. In fact, you saw one at the start of this video. But you can put a little coin in here, and then you can pretend you're a monkey or you're a primate, and you can go ahead and get the coin that you just put in there to the bottom of this thing, so you can properly donate it. And this is exactly what they would do with normal primates. They would put some snacks, some treats in the top thing, and the primates would have to get a little stick and go get that little snack all the way to the bottom where they can retrieve it, and it just keeps them busy, it keeps them enriched. And I thought this was such a clever way to put a little donation thing in. It got me to donate. The only problem is, if you're clever enough, you can actually get your coin out through the front slit that you're sticking the stick through. So there is actually a way to get your coin before donating it, but why would you do that? I mean, come on, don't be a dick. So, down here, there's more space. That little area we just saw wasn't the only exhibit for the bonobo. Don't worry, they do have more space in here. And yeah, we can see them all running around, playing, climbing, just having a blast, really. So yeah, I'm quite a fan. I really want to emphasize, I dislike the outdoor enclosure, but the indoor enclosure is pretty cool in here. I do quite like it. So yeah, but that is pretty much it for Wuppertal. We are about to see gorillas, so that is our cue to move to the next zoo. So, wrapping up the video, we are looking at Planckendael, and of course we've already seen this in the Planckendael zoo tour video, so if you want to see it in more detail and also hear the soothing voice of Iben, then you can check out that video right in the corner. But yeah, we are going to the Bonobo expedition, and I really like this area. There's so much detail and thought put into it. Like you just saw the map, that is the trail that we're following, and we're gonna get to all these like vista points. Yeah, this is our first stop over here at the docks. And what I want to point out over here is something we could actually see in every moat so far, is that there's an electric wire going through the moat kind of halfway. And that's something that's also recommended by the husbandry manual, just as an extra measure to prevent bonobos from jumping over the moat. Then moving through like the trail, you are up on these elevated walkways. You get to see the enclosure from different angles, and just look at how lush it is. Once again, I love these lush enclosures for these animals. It's so freaking cool. But yeah, now we're gonna go into the indoor area, Camp Ienia. There was no N in there. I don't know where I got that from. But yeah, so we're gonna go into the indoor area, and once again, third in a row, or well, not in a row, but third this video, we have this elevated view for the people, and then the bonobo are in this like pit, but of course you will rarely see them actually in that pit. They're pretty much always on these elevated points, because that's just where they like to hang out, and you get to see them there. You get to see them climb around, make their nests, stuff like that. I really love these kind of viewing points. But even cooler here in Planckendael is all of the theming around this area. We're like in this camp, so there's all this equipment and camping gear and protection also, because we're in the dangerous Congo jungle. So we brought some guns with us, I guess. But the walls here are like tents, tent fabric. It really looks like you're actually in a camp, looking out a window now on this onto this bonobo habitat. We can see the camp, like the clothing lines. There's actually a pass through for the bonobo up there. But yeah, most of all the enclosures we've seen thus far, there is so many different rooms over here where they can separate the bonobo. I think there's like four different exhibits, or 4 different like separation areas that you can already just see as a visitor alone, and there's even more backstage, like off exhibit stuff. So it's just, there's so many rooms over here for them to separate the bonobo. I can't even begin to imagine how many bonobo they actually have in here. But yeah, super cool. And each of these rooms has like a ton of climbing, these pretty decent cool backgrounds. Eben wasn't a huge fan of those, but I think they're pretty neat still. They make it unique as well. And here's our last stop on the Expedition Bonobo, which is this research camp where there's a ton of stuff. And here we can see it. Oh, it's 98.7% of our DNA matches that of a bonobo. And yeah, there's a TV screen over here where you can watch some videos, educational videos about the bonobo. And then here's the last room. Once again, super awesome. I absolutely love Planckendael's exhibit. I think it's probably my second favorite, just because of how extensive that indoor area is. And the outdoor area is definitely not too shabby either. We're gonna have another view of that right over here from this little African hut in the village. Yeah, we can see that right over there is the place for them to go outside, and we can see that same climbing structure that we've seen from a bunch of different angles already. And hey, we can see the little enrichment thing that we just had in Wuppertal as a donation bin. And here we get to see it in action, so we can see the bonobo kind of playing around with that. We can also see he's chilling near the exit. But yeah, this exhibit is just phenomenal as well. Like this one also is about 3,000 square meters, so definitely on par with the rest. There's a little classroom over here. We can learn about the differences between bonobos and chimpanzee, which are of course pretty hard to tell, especially for the layman. So it's awesome to give that a little bit of attention. And then lastly, we have one of the things that also puts this exhibit on the top of my list for bonobo, is the bonobo cavern over here. It's just this little cavern viewing area. I don't know why they thought, yeah, let's do this, but I'm glad they did. It's absolutely awesome, especially here with the waterfall, stuff like that. Oh, it's just so cool. Just and also just the way that they use like the different elevations to create essentially the same viewing point twice, but from a different elevation, so you can experience it all over again. It's just a really efficient use of space, and yeah, giving the exhibit even more attention. So super awesome. And then from inside of the cave over here, you can also have another look into the bottom of that last indoor area that we saw from the research camp. So it looks like the bonobo are just getting fed because they're picking up all sorts of food and things are falling down. But yeah, that's it for Planckendael, and that's also it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some bonobo inspiration, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!